Just going to warn you ahead of time, it's a little bit longer than an average press conference statement. A lot to say, so we'll strap this. I'm speaking on behalf of my community, which should have a voice within the Board of Supervisors through the East County Municipal Advisory Committee, East County MAC, that was established 18 months ago and still sits vacant today. Our concerns boil down to the general lack of public visibility, rigor when it comes to allocating discretionary funds or grants, which currently require no disclosure of potential conflicts of interest, ethical concerns, or any competitive application process, which is required for awarding contracts or services. The volume of funds that are directed to purposes that don't serve the community in any directly quantifiable way, while residents' needs go unmet and they're told by county officials to threaten litigation to get basic services. The undisclosed or overlooked relationships and conflicts of interest between county officials, favored constituents, donors, nonprofits, contractors, a culture of pay-to-play self-dealing, and potential corruption. The lack of clear governance surrounding ethics, codes of conduct, and authority of non-elected officials, and the failure to address these issues despite a documented history of concern and recommendations to the board via grand jury reports spanning decades. What began as an easy-to-fix, potentially honest mistake, nothing burger, spiraled into a series of unbelievable events the more I pressed for transparency and a community-focused resolution. My story begins in July of 2024 when an unknown number of unincorporated East County residents received communications from Supervisor Haubert's District 1 staff stating they were required to obtain waste collection services with Livermore Sanitation due to the new law SB 1383. In reality, the requirement only applied to a limited portion of the unincorporated area. The communication made no distinction. In December 2024, Alameda County Waste Management Program Lead Andy Schneider, who was responsible for interpreting the law and ensuring compliance, was informed of the misleading communications by another resident, a neighbor of mine. He took no corrective action despite his responsibility to interpret and ensure compliance with the law. I was made aware of the issue in January of this year, so 2 years after it was originally announced. I was made aware when I requested an exemption as I was self-hauling to my business within city limits. I was directed to Andy by LSI, who checked my address and confirmed the requirement never applied to me as I was still in an optional zone. Andy then copied Sean Wilson, Chief of Staff for Supervisor Haubert, into our email chain after I identified the District 1 email as the source of confusion. Sean accepted responsibility on behalf of his office, asked me to discontinue discussions with Andy or LSI, the trash contractor, and refused to put any resolution in writing, instead insisting that I meet with him in person to discuss, which was the first of many red flags. Sean and I met on February 2nd of 2026 at the District 1 office at the Alameda County Fairgrounds. Supervisor Haubert was not present. Sean immediately informed me he was extremely busy juggling Melissa Hernandez's congressional campaign and his district duties, and that the staffer responsible for the email had been fired due to violating a communications policy. He assured me the staffer had acted carelessly and alone. He then made me an offer that any reasonable person would understand to be a bribe. A verbal agreement between me, his office, and Livermore Sanitation for a charitable donation using discretionary funds, conditional on my silence. He also mentioned he might be able to ask Livermore Sanitation about a credit on my business, but wasn't sure they would go for it, and also offered me Disney on Ice tickets, all conditional on silence. Sean had likely been told of several Facebook posts I made in a private group by a member of the group that I believed to be either a Livermore Sanitation employee or the wife of another county official. He was clear that this would be a handshake deal, no NDA required, and the last thing he wanted was me going on social media because he had no intent of offering the same deal to anyone else. I asked how many other affected residents they had identified, and he told me that according to Andy Schneider, there were less than 5, and that he would work with LSI and Andy to reach out to them. I left his office to consider everything. On March 2nd, 2026, I met with the former staffer to discuss, and I concluded that their description of the situation conflicted with what I had been told by Sean. They stated they had not been told why they were terminated, were unaware of any communications policy, and believed they had been directed to send the message. They also shared the 2015 civil grand jury report that found Sean had engaged in serious misconduct including pressuring county officials to make decisions that favored donors or preferred constituents, including his personal mortgage broker, as well as engaged in hostile communications with other county employees. The Board of Supervisors took no action in response to this report or its findings and recommendations, which included a formal investigation into Sean's actions, development of clear policies to define the chief of staff role, authority, and acceptable conduct, an establishment of ethics standards and governance reforms to reduce the ability for unelected staff to direct or influence other officials or operational decisions. The staffer also shared a troubling allegation that Sean himself and another longtime associate of his later confirmed to me, which was his insider knowledge of illegal dealings and a personal connection to individuals currently charged with crimes related to waste management. On March 20th, 2026, I met with Sean at the same location as before. According to Sean, Supervisor Haubert was not present because he was traveling in Hungary, Budapest, and Croatia with Global Artists and Vintners Alliance, an organization that he founded and oversees within the Livermore Wine Growers Community nonprofit, an organization that also includes waste contractor executives and its directors until recently, and receives discretionary funds. I informed Sean that his proposed charitable donation wouldn't work for me unless I was missing something about how it would actually make me whole. He explained that he could not directly give me a check for taxpayer money, otherwise he would. And the proper processes were a nightmare where he had to jump through hoops to even properly direct funds for services. He responded that nothing further could be done, and when I pressed him on a proper resolution or an escalation given his office's error and my financial damages, he advised me to sue the county. At that point, he began to pressure me for an amount. I was uncomfortable naming a number without quantifying my lost time, in addition to my trash bill, so I asked him if he wanted to discuss it with county council while I tried to figure it out. I told him I didn't want to sue my government or hire an attorney, but he insisted it was the only way to get the board's attention and told me he advises people to sue all the time, including Castlewood and the California Apartments Association. He noted the county might be willing to give me up to $10,000 to make this go away, since they had a $4 billion budget and that amount would be nothing to them. He noted that there might even be a number under which he could go through a mediator without having to waste the board and council and the chief administrative officer's time. He advised me to draft a letter addressed to Supervisor Haubert, Supervisor Tam, County Admin Susan Uranishi, and County Counsel Andrea Wendell, outlining my issue and threatening litigation, then email it to him, and in the meantime to give him a number so he could try to arrange mediation without any session or public forum visibility. We began discussing Livermore sanitation ownership, and at that point, Sean explained the local families involved with several waste management contractors, including Livermore Sanitation, Pleasanton Garbage, Amber Valley Industries, and Waste Connections. This was also when he shared information about his knowledge of criminal activities not yet public I referenced earlier. He also commented that his family had a long history of trash mafia-type activities through their former business, Oakland Scavenger. I confirmed I'd send the letter per his instructions, and I left. I submitted a resolution demand letter on March 30th to Sean via email and CC'd County Council. Sean replied the next day asking me how much I wanted. I told him to have council contacted. On May 6th, I met with Senator Cobb to request support in escalating the matter and was referred to the appropriate law enforcement agencies. I had several conversations with different law enforcement agencies and was assured the matter would be seriously looked into. On May 13th, Andy Snyder finally issued a corrective email to an unknown recipients list. It confirmed District 1's error and noted residents in East County, excluding areas of Livermore, Pleasanton, and Sunnell, parts of which are under contract with Pleasanton Garbage, may have received the misleading communication. This email failed to provide a path to financial resolution for those that may have opted in against their wishes. On May 14th, I called Supervisor Haubert on his cell phone. I spoke with him and shared my general concern about Sean's conduct, confirmed he was aware of the matter, and requested an in-person meeting. He agreed and asked me to text him to schedule. I texted him the following week, but after a brief exchange relating to logistics, the conversation went no further. On May 19th, I met with a former staffer and a longtime associate of Sean's. The associate informed me that they had firsthand knowledge of Sean engaging in conflicts of interest and offering bribes on behalf of individuals currently charged with federal crimes, including conspiracy, bribery, wire fraud, mail fraud, lying to federal agents. On May 22nd, I visited Livermore Sanitation and I spoke with District Manager Haubert, the person Sean told me he had been working with. Roberto confirmed he was aware of the matter, but when asked if they had produced a list of unincorporated residents that had opened accounts following misleading communications, he confirmed they had not and would not unless forced by the county. He also confirmed they wouldn't be crediting or refunding anyone, as their position was they performed on the contract and weren't responsible for the error. So that's fantastic customer service. On May 27th, I contacted Andy's supervisor, Albert Lopez, Alameda County Planning Director, by phone and email, and asked him to explain the lack of action despite Andy's knowledge of the issue since December of 2024 and why no financial remedy was being offered by the county. He said he would look into it and never responded. On June 10th, I received a settlement offer from Kathleen Flynn on behalf of County Council. The offer denied all liability, citing Government Code Section 818.8 and 822.2, which states public entities and their employees are not liable for employee misrepresentations or errors unless the employee is guilty of fraud, corruption, or malice. It also required me to waive any right to future legal action, made no effort to identify or resolve the issue for other residents, and offered me a sum that took no consideration into account for the months of my time that had been wasted holding officials accountable and advocating for my community. And I'm aware that Sean is telling members of the press right now that all I want is more money, and I want to be absolutely clear, I do want money. I want my money back, I want my community to get their money back, and I want to be compensated for working for months just to get them to do what is right. I'm relatively new to Alameda County, having only lived here a handful of years, but I've spent most of my adult life in rural communities and have never felt more compelled to advocate for reform. Longtime members of the community are well aware of how business is done and are exhausted with the culture of favors and self-dealing over public interest. Rather than our local government anticipating or reacting to our needs, we're told to threaten litigation to get them to work for us. According to a recent San Francisco Chronicle article, over the past 7 years, nearly $51 million in discretionary funds have been spent without a competitive process or sufficient public oversight. Who knows how many of these payments have gone to settle grievances, silence whistleblowers, or other untoward purposes? And why is Sean Wilson personally directing the use of these funds or compelling lawsuits against the county? Members of the Board of Supervisors have aggressively opposed SB 1193, stating there's no need for the bill, and it makes it more difficult to direct funds to worthy causes and actually results in less rigor, which is simply not the case. I have read the full text, and it does nothing to make it harder to allocate funds for proper purposes and everything to ensure the public can see where our money is going, prevent county staff from directing funds unethically, and require county staff to disclose potential conflicts of interest, including consulting payments received. The way business has been done for decades in Alameda County must change to meet modern expectations. Despite what it looks like, we don't live in a Taylor Sheridan series, even given our rich history of Western ranching and agriculture. And we deserve our tax dollars to be directed to purposes that benefit us directly and measurably. Continuing the culture of opacity, hiding behind lawyers, and not upholding bare minimum ethical standards is a black spot on our county when we can and should do better. SB 1193 represents a golden opportunity for county officials and elected representatives to stand for progress and restore faith in local government. To the Board of Supervisors, your constituents are compelling you to take action and engage with us in good faith. Appointing East County Municipal Advisory Committee members that can advise the county without conflicts of interest is more important than ever given the rise of issues like affordable housing, data centers, public surveillance, environmental conservation, and economic development. I've submitted my application for a seat on the committee this week, and I look forward to discussing ways I can help serve the public during the application process. The community would like to see the following corrective actions. The Board of Supervisors should take the corrective actions outlined in the 2015 Civil Grand Jury Report to investigate Sean and adopt ethical and code of conduct guardrails preventing unelected officials from engaging in conflicts of interest or improperly influencing decision makers. The board should appoint East County MAC members free of ethical concerns or conflict of interests. East County MAC should oversee an audit of all internal and public-facing communications relating to the waste management issue I've described today, work with LSI and Pleasanton Garbage to identify and communicate directly to any residents in the optional area that may still be paying for services against their will, and provide appropriate financial restitution for anyone affected, not just me. And lastly, the Board of Supervisors should support the passage of 1193 if they have nothing to hide and feel that all processes, discretionary payments issued, and payments received by themselves or their staff are above board. And finally, I will add that I met with Supervisor Haubert this morning and reviewed the matters I've shared with you all today. He was unable to join me here due to a meeting in Oakland, but the conversation was productive. While he committed to appointing MAC members free of conflicts immediately, reviewing the concerns about Sean's conduct and taking appropriate action, and properly resolving the trash issue by identifying affected residents and offering restitution, there is much work to be done. Supervisor Haubert and I will continue to work together on this topic to ensure strong partnership between his office and the community and continued public oversight. He also committed to ensuring his staff operates to the highest ethical standards going forward. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to take any questions.
So this is a long time and a lot of effort on your part. You put hundreds of hours into this, Amber. What is it that's driving you in a nutshell? And I have a tell us why are you doing this so relentlessly?
Well, besides the perimenopausal rage and the general dissatisfaction with the government at many levels, I told this to Supervisor Haubert this morning. I don't have any loyalties to any organizations or associations or officials here. I just want what's right for my community. My husband and I have always wanted to support what is right, and I can't do anything about whoever is in Washington, but I can do something about who is in, Oakland.
Right. And what would a resolution look like?
Well, I think a lot of the things that I have described, right? We need appointees on our municipal advisory council that are free of conflicts. We need, obviously, the trash matter resolved and people to be made whole. And personally, I don't understand why Sean is allowed to continue to have access to our finances or any authority at all. It's ridiculous.
Can you kind of explain a little more what Haubert kind of committed to you today when you met with him? Like, what is it that he offered?
So I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to speak on his behalf. And just being this morning, I don't have like a very detailed transcription of that conversation. But what he committed to was, again, ensuring that his staff operates to the highest ethical standards. And he committed to appointing members to the Municipal Advisory Committee immediately. And I'm sure they have plenty of applicants. It's been open, for 18 months for people to apply. He also committed to looking into this matter with Sean's conduct and engaging with the community in a better way going forward, which I appreciated. He did not commit to supporting the bill immediately. I think there's still a lot of ongoing discussions in there, but I shared with him that I and the community support the bill.
Have you reached out to any law enforcement?
I have spoken with several agencies, including our district attorney at length. I won't go further into details on that. I'm sure you guys would hear pieces of that every time.
Can you clarify a bit? So the payments originally you were asked to pay, and that company you were paying was not the ones actually dealing with your trash service? Is that what was going on? And so unless I was basically just getting free money because...
No, not quite. What happened was a law was passed that required unincorporated residents to have trash service when we were never required before. Self-haul, compost, do whatever you want. The law that passed was SB 1383.
Okay.
And there's a guy at the county who's responsible for interpreting that law, who then works with everybody else, the trash companies and the public, to say, okay, you've got to have it, you don't got to have it. So when Supervisor Haubert's office sent communications, which nobody really understands why they got involved. This should be the guy at the county communicating it, or maybe the trash companies themselves own it. They made no distinction. They just said everybody has to have it. So myself and an unknown number of other residents are in Pleasanton, Sunnell, East Livermore, South Livermore, wherever. We all signed up, and we've been paying even though we never wanted services. And there's this concerning relationship between Haubert's office and the trash contractors and Wine Growers Association, which receives discretionary funds. Haubert's an advisor on their board, and then they go on these trips together. And I explained this to him this morning. I said, you need to understand how this appears, and you need to help your community understand if it's fine, it's fine. But there is a perception that you may not be aware of. And I doubt anyone in the circles is really saying that to them.
So you didn't have trash service. This bill passed. We required to have trash service.
Yep.
Got it. Thank you.
When it comes to further recourse, are you looking to address, it sounds like you've had a good talk, with Supervisor Haubert. Are you looking to address issues with Sean Wilson in particular, or with the District 1 office in general?
Both.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we need to resolve this matter. We need to ensure that anyone employed by the county or our elected officials or appointed is operating in an ethical and transparent way. Obviously, there is a problem with Sean. But what I've offered to Supervisor Haubert is if I am appointed to our municipal advisory committee, there's a lot of small things we can do. To start with, having a roster of residents that includes their contact information in a way that allows them to properly determine what applies to who. They have an email list, but no addresses next to it. And they have the addresses, right? They should be able to get that information. So how could this error have occurred in the first place? I don't understand that.
Anything else? Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Well, for being here.
Cheers.
Thank you. Yeah.